Hello, Cat here, and welcome to the Random Game Review, episode 17. Tonight, I'll be talking with you about my Tpcast for the Oculus Rift, and how it's handled the 4 days that I've had it, with putting it through a couple of different paces and a couple of different setups, and how everything has worked out. First, let's talk about the quality of build. It is built sturdy. With that being said, it is very thin plastic. It doesn't feel like a quality product would feel. It's lighter than a remote on most TVs, it feels like. But honestly, it has to be like that because it's on top of your head. And it has to try to get as least amount of occlusion to the device, so it's very open as well, to let air in and out, heat dispensation and all that. With that being said, while I had it on, and while I was stopping my VR session, I unbuckled my strap and held the wrong end. Now, what I'm talking about is, this end here is the end you don't want to hold. You want to hold this end. And the reason is, if you let go of this end, the battery just slips right off the strap. And it did that. Now, the battery cord, of course, is not long enough to go on the floor. So when it hit the floor, it yanked my whole HMD right off my head and just whacked the floor, knocked my facial interface off, and I thought I had just like destroyed the whole thing. It was just, for a second there, my heart stopped. But put the facial interface back on, and it worked perfectly fine. So I'm happy with the quality of build. I think if it can handle a fall right off your head and hit the ground on carpet, that's good enough for me. The only thing I am concerned about is the transmitter, and that is the actuating head on the transmitter is very tight. Now, I understand that you want it tight because once you set it, you just don't want to think about it. If you have it up in the corner of the wall or somewhere where you need it angled, you don't want it falling down from the weight of the HDMI cable. But if someone doesn't know, it is really tight. And if the first time I went to go grab it and pull it, you could just see the flex right there in the plastic, and it looks dangerous, like it could crack, or dangerous it can touch the microchip board inside. So that was my only concern about it, was flexing that and damaging something internally. Other than that, I think everything, it feels like a quality build, and it has held up to a drop test. So I think it's alright. Now, I set up the Tpcast in several different ways. First way I had it set up was on my entertainment center in front of me here. And this worked pretty good for both the receiver, the transmitter on the entertainment center, and my router. The most problem I had was I was getting video errors. It was, pixelating, or was stopping, and so I was getting issues with that. And that's not what you want when you're playing a fast-paced game like Space Pirate Trainer or Robo Recall or something of that nature. So the next step I did was I went ahead and put my router on a shelf, and I put my transmitter up on my shelf. Again, I was getting issues with tracking. Well, not tracking, but I was getting video issues, as well as I was getting some tracking issues with my controllers. Now, I noticed this in Robo Recall the most, where it actually says your batteries are low on your controllers, or please replace your batteries on your controllers. A little screen pops up. So I noticed that, and it's enough that it would happen in an instant, but it would just stop the gameplay. So I knew something was going on. Now, in my final setup, I have my Tpcast transmitter set in the center of my room between the two front sensors. Now, my two front sensors are set at 7.5 feet high, 9 feet apart. And my Tpcast transmitter is set at a 45-degree angle, dead center, looking straight at my game area. Ever since I put it there, I have not noticed an issue with video quality, with video transmission. The only time I would notice it is during load time or end of game time. So either when I'm stopping and it's calculating all points, or when I'm trying to load into a game. That's the only time where I see any sort of lag. And the type of lag I'm seeing, it's when you move your head left and right, you'll see like a 2-second drag, and then it will catch up. That's really the only time. Other times when I see it now would be if Oculus is updating something or I have Windows doing something in the background, especially when actually recording some VR gameplay. In Lone Echo, it occurred where I got all this choppiness and I couldn't believe I was still getting it. But then once I stopped recording it and just played it again, it was perfectly fine. So it's very sensitive to your system. Now my system, I'm running an i7 7700K, overclocked to 5 gigahertz with a 1080 graphics card, 16 gigs of RAM. So if I'm getting that much issue with just having something run in the background, anyone with something less really has to have a tight system that's going to have all its resources available. And that's the only thing I can say about that on resources. As far as the actual units working, the router is on the wall as well, right in front of me. Now, having the router and the Tpcast transmitter right in front of the wall and right in front of me, so everyone can see it, is not the way I have my room set up. I have my room set up so all my cords are hidden in the walls, and now to have all this stuff just dangling in front is just an eyesore. So I'm gonna give that as just not good. So that's a negative that I have to deal with. Somehow I'm gonna have to figure out what else to do with these cords, but for now I'm gonna leave them as they are and try to fool around with them a little more. But it's just kind of sucks to have all these cords out. The other thing is that I am currently set up with the router by itself and my internet going through a USB gigabit adapter. I haven't had any issues and everything seems fine. Of course, I'm running only a regular modem, no special internet service or anything, so I don't expect to see any issues with that. When I did have the router running the internet as well, I didn't notice any issue there either, but I just figured I'll go out and get the extra gigabit adapter and just not even worry about it at this point. The Tpcast transmitter I have set up with an extension cable, and I'm not having any issues with having that extension cable in it. I was concerned with once I put the extension cable on it that there might be lag, but I'm not getting any difference in lag with or without the extension cable added on. So that's a plus to know that it can handle a little more feet to it. The controller issue that I was having has gone away as well, that every time when I said the batteries would show. Again, I think basically everything has to be line of sight directly to you. The problem that I didn't realize I was causing was having everything on a shelf at 5 feet high and above was that my hands are down at my waist about 3 feet. So anytime my hands are down there or anytime I create occlusion, not only am I creating occlusion, the shelves are also doing it as well. And finding out that 60 gigahertz is not that strong of a signal, so having it up on a shelf partially obscured by the bottom of the shelf, I think was causing an issue. Now that I have it directly in line of sight, it's 100% better. I mean, I really cannot say there's any difference in quality. The video looks just as good as it did before with the cord. The only way I can get occlusion now is by covering the Tpcast up with something or my hands or bending over and really just like hugging my head. And otherwise, I haven't had any issues since with anything that I would think you would not expect with a wireless adapter running, 2K or 4K or 90 frames per second video to a VR headset. I think it's perfectly fine. And with that being said, I really think the biggest downfall of the Tpcast is that you don't get the microphone. You don't get to use your Oculus microphone, which is a big downfall. A lot of people will think, hey, that's a deal breaker. Now, I use a microphone here for my recording, and I can put it on a shelf, and even though it sounds echoey, it still works. But it would really be nice to have the microphone working. And I heard a lot of reviews of the Chinese version that it didn't work as well, so I wasn't expecting it to work, but I was kind of hoping that it did work. Now, it shows up in the menu, it shows up on your Windows computer as an available mic, but it just doesn't activate. It just isn't there. So that's the only downfall I see as far as transmitting. The battery tested as well. It just died today. So it lasted for 4 days, and that I was putting about an hour, maybe an hour and a half on each run, maybe a little bit less. So I got at least 4 hours out of it, so I'm happy with that. So, but getting 4 hours out of it means it's going to take, right now I started charging it maybe an hour ago. No, actually 2 hours ago, and it's not even halfway. So I would recommend definitely getting a second battery. I think that pretty much in 4 days, that's pretty much all I can do. I mean, I can do different setups and whatnot, but in 4 days, I think I've hit everything I need to hit. The rest of the stuff, maybe there'll be updates to the software, maybe not, but I haven't had enough time really to try all these different scenarios. I have walked with my headset out of the room to the bathroom, and I still get audio until I round the corner, and I get video for about 12 feet away from the transmitter. So I think it's got some good range on it. So definitely, if you have it within your play area, which can't be more than, heck, my area is 9 feet by 11. So I wasn't getting really any issues. And in my video, you're probably watching behind me, that there's a few times when I just am playing in the corner of my green screen, and I have no idea until I start stepping on it and almost walk right, pull the whole thing down. In fact, the one thing that I found is that now I have no idea where the front of the room is anymore, because without the cord being to my side, to my left side, I can't tell where the front is. So there's a lot of times when I'm thinking it to the front, and then all of a sudden, when either a game loads to the next level or I get out of a game and I can't see a screen, I have to turn around and try to find the screen, because a lot of times it's orientated towards the front of your room. And it really causes a better immersion with the whole gameplay experience, because one, you're not really paying attention to the cord, which subconsciously you're always paying attention to, so you don't step on it. Right now I feel like I'm in the in-between stage, because I don't have anything to hold on to while I'm playing, so I'm concerned about walking back into my wall. In fact, yesterday I need the TV, the entertainment center, so now I'm kind of a little more cautious again and taking full-on steps. But when I forget about it, I'm just walking around, and then I have to kind of do the peer between your nose and the headset to look down to make sure I'm not like close to anything. With all that being said, I think that really the Tpcast gets a 9 out of 10. Well, actually, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say an 8 out of 10. The reason is, one, the microphone, that gives it a full mark off automatically, because you don't get full use of your headset. And the 8 is just the setup and prep I had to do with it. The headset wasn't so bad, plugging it in, just trying to figure out how to get that all set up. But, it would be nice to have something that you can just kind of put on a shelf, put around, and it worked. Now, I understand that it needs full line of sight, and so I knew that my last setup was most likely the correct setup, but it kind of sucks to have to put it somewhere where it's all the wires are at. A lot of people are going to be doing that and just leave the wires out hanging around, or they're going to think about taking it down and putting it up all the time. Me personally, I like to leave it up all the time, so I'm going to have to spend the time now to figure out how to get this wire back through my wall and around my other wall to my computer. So I might have to invest in more cords, but otherwise I like the experience. I'm going to keep playing. If I find anything that is detrimental or an issue that keeps recurring that I haven't mentioned, I'll definitely bring it up in my next upcoming videos. So, thank you for watching. If you liked it, like down below, subscribe, have a good night, and keep on playing VR. Thank you.